That was good, right? Welcome back, everyone. Little known fact, piece of incidental trivia. But go back to the mid-'70s, and my wife and I moved here so I could take a job at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. And like many of you, once you experience anything at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, you're hooked for life. Well, recently, as you know, we have a new executive director, and joining me today is that person, Elizabeth Sobol. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Very nice to have you here.
I'm delighted to be here.
That little piece of incidental trivia that I laid on our audience there, you had said something to me. You came to Saratoga, right?
Yep.
You're living in Miami,
Yep.
Wonderful career in the business, know a lot of people and everything else. You find out that there's this position open in Saratoga. You come up to Saratoga, and I love the story you told about when you first walked down Broadway.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'm going to give a little precursor to what happened.
Sure.
I had, my last professional commitment had been at Universal Music. I was running a classics label there. And I left in April, this past April, and I was planning to take the whole summer off and just think about, after having so many years in the business, like thinking about doing something completely different, not in the cultural sphere, right? So I literally had just come back to Miami. 5 days later, the phone rang. It was a search firm saying, a couple of people have recommended you for this job at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. And I said, okay, let me walk over to my window, and I'm going to describe to you what I'm looking at out the window. And then you're going to tell me, yes, I was right on the ocean. And I said, and you tell me why I should even spend a couple of seconds thinking of moving to Saratoga. So I just wanted you to have the background for me to then tell you the story that when I did ultimately come up here for the first interview, I'd never been here before, even though I'd worked in the management business for many years and a lot of my artists had performed on the SPAC stage. I had never been here, so I really didn't know what to expect. And I came in on a kind of a cool, gray Sunday late afternoon. I hadn't eaten, needed to find someplace to eat. And I just got a map of the city and walked down, kind of feeling my way. Had no idea what I was going to come into contact with, but I'm on Broadway all of a sudden. I'm feeling the energy of the city. Just purely by chance, I take a right onto Phyllis Street. Well, I happen to be a literature fanatic, I would say. I'm probably as fanatical about literature as I am about music, and I pass right by Lyrical Ballad. Yeah, right. Of course, it's closed, but note to self, come back tomorrow morning. And then I happen to take a left onto, I guess that's Putnam Street, and walk by Mio Posto, which kind of pulled me in by just like the feeling and the menu and everything. I had a great meal. Then meandered some more up to Broadway, take a left, and lo and behold, I walk right by Northshire Books, which happens, the one in Manchester has always been one of my great favorite bookstores in the world. So all of a sudden, the city became alive to me, even though I had hardly had a conversation with anybody here, but just those touch points that there was a great meal to be had, that there were not one, but two extraordinary independent bookstores within 4 blocks of each other. I felt like the city was speaking to me. So just that thing in and of itself, by the time I got back to my hotel room, I had this kind of, I don't know, kind of a sense of magic about the city. And then the next day when I went to the interview with the board, I've always worked in the commercial side of the business, but running a talent agency, running a record label. I'd never worked on the not-for-profit side. And to be perfectly honest, you know, some of my friends who run major organizations in the not-for-profit world in the classical music side, I know some of their board experiences, and I'd never worked with a board in the not-for-profit side, so I didn't know what to expect. I'd heard horror stories about, you know, cultural boards, and the group of people that I encountered when I went into that search committee meeting just so blew me away. There was just a kind of openness and obvious passion and dedication and real like you felt the love for the city of these people who are so incredibly dedicated to this city and to what happens here. It was really palpable. And so, you know, the search firm had asked me kind of going into this whole process, well, are you really interested or what, you know, because we don't want to waste anybody's time. And I said, I'm intrigued. But when I left the interview, I said to them, now I'm seriously interested, because there's definitely something there that's grabbing hold of me.
Well, you know what? People talk about Saratoga. Well, is it the waters? Is it the history? I don't know. Is it a combination of all of the above? But that feeling, a lot of people say that about the city. Now, you have such a diverse background. You love the arts.
Yes.
You know, you're married to a musician.
Yes.
A successful musician. And, but you know how to run a business, right? Because let's face it, that's where that disconnect seems to happen a lot, is that someone would love the arts working off one side of their brain, yet it's an organization, and it needs to be a profitable organization, a well-run organization with a lot of fundamentals in place. You've been circling some language, right? This is a very typical way, right, to come into a situation like this. It's an art center. It's one of the 5 most prestigious summer arts centers in the country.
Yes.
What kind of language are you using? It's about community, right? And
yeah, I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, some of the language when I experienced SPAC, or the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, as I like to call it, in its full glory, you know, it is about great art and what happens on the stage, but it's equally about the context and the phenomenal natural beauty. I think they go hand in hand. What nature does for the human soul, opening one up, making one receptive to the world around you, and then art, the man-made side of beauty, comes in and helps transform the soul. And to me, that's what arts organizations really need to be about. If they don't have higher purpose and inspiration driving them, it's very hard to make the financial side work. So I'm hoping to do everything I can with the incredible team that I have and this incredible community with all the resources and majesty, really, of what Saratoga Performing Arts Center represents, to make these sorts of transformative experiences more accessible to even more people.
Yes, right. You know what you're doing is you're opening the channel there for a lot of curiosity and a lot of exchanges of imagination and thought. And, you know, let's face it, that's why an arts organization like the Performing Arts Center exists. Well, Elizabeth, you're welcome to come in anytime.
Thank you so much.
This is just the beginning, and I'm just very grateful. Thank you for coming in, because I want our audience to know you.
Thank you so much.
You know, there's such a love of the Performing Arts Center throughout the whole region, and be very excited to see as you become acclimated and you start to move out and you start to connect to the community, actually what happens.
Yeah, well, I thank you so much. This is great, and I feel so much love for this place. I'm really kind of blown away by how deep the love goes so quickly.
Well, you know what? I'm in the community a lot, and it's reciprocal.
Thank you so much. That's
so
great
Elizabeth,
to hear.
great to have you in.
Thank you so much. Take care.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.